in getting a water machine that will wash you and wash your arteries, then going in for bypass surgery and losing work for 6 months to a year. I mean, come on. Put your priorities in the right place and start thinking about what is it and where are we putting our priorities. When we think about, when my husband and I were introduced to this kind of water, we said, that's a no-brainer. We're spending all this money on supplements and all these things to get younger and to do the work that God's given us to do. It doesn't make sense for us not to have the best water on the planet. And so cholesterol is a production in a defense. It's God's way of protecting us from dehydration. Swelling of the brain and dehydration. If you lose more sodium than fluid, you will swell. The body compensates for this loss by producing particles that pull the water into the cells. This produces edema and swelling. And when this happens in the brain, there is severe, grave consequences. And folks, you and whoever gets this information from you, this information may save a life. Because when somebody has a car accident or an injury to the head, the number one thing that can cause more brain injury is the swelling. And if you cannot stop that swelling, you will have so much more brain injury and in many cases death. So remember that little piece here. There are little life nuggets here that can save many lives if you pick them up. Brain dehydration, histamines, and brain allergies. Whoever thought that allergies were related to dehydration? Oh my goodness, when I was 16, I started this thing called allergies, and so my parents took me down to the doctor and I got all these tests, those miserable tests, and then I had to for years get these crazy shots of these antigens, and I thought, these aren't doing anything, I still have allergies. And, you know, I started moving into nutrition, and that helped, changing my diet. And I think just getting more fruits and vegetables, getting the water from that, getting more minerals. And I eventually got rid of the allergies. But what I could have saved myself in money and time and lost things in life. I had headaches for probably 7 years every day of my life. It was allergies. It was toxicity. I never drank water. I didn't even drink regular acid water. I didn't drink anything because I was not educated. And we need to be educated and to educate others about how important brain allergies are a very key factor for people. In fact, a very high number of people have allergens that get into the system, and because they don't have enough water, they affect you in having anger, anxiety, behavior disorders, compulsions and ritualistic behaviors, confusion, concentration problems, depression, mood disorders, nervousness, schizophrenia, and speech disorders. A lot of times we don't even relate these. They are allergies. When the histamine is too high, your allergies are raging, and they are related to the brain. High histamines are, what's the thing on the market? Antihistamines. Because they know you've got to bring that histamine level down or you're going to be miserable. If you have a brain allergy or if you have a body allergy, it's an indication of dehydration. Chronic dehydration can cause histamine to become excessively active. Supplying the body with water, and again the right water, will cause a disappearance of the high levels of histamine. And water, now folks, this is science, this is studied. Science has told us that water, even regular water, will reduce histamine amounts. But think of how much exponentially you can raise the bar if you have microclustered ionic alkaline water, because it inhibits the histamines even more and their production and acts like an antihistamine. It's fantastic. Science has documented a lot of things for the brain, and histamines is one of the things they know. They've done the studies. Brain issues are linked to the histamine levels being way too high. Abnormal fears, aggressiveness, autism, bipolar, compulsive behavior, compulsivity, and rituals, crying easily, depression, hyperactivity, obsession about sex, overstimulation, racing brains, schizophrenia, suicide thoughts, and others. See how many of these are coming at us from different levels. Many of these things you've heard just a few minutes ago about dehydration. Now you're hearing it about histamines, that they have high histamine levels being caused by the dehydration. Signs of high histamines are caused by brain allergies, agitation, aggressive behavior, anxiety, autism, depression, fatigue, irritability, learning problems, moodiness, psychotic issues, slowed thought processes. And do you know that most common in the world of allergens is dairy and gluten? One of the things we do in our brain camp is we do a gluten-free, dairy-free diet, teach people how to do wonderful recipes without gluten and without dairy, because they are such high triggers for the brain to go into some of these things. Water is a natural antihistamine. Research shows that water is known to reduce histamines. One of the greatest researchers, and I recommend you Google him and look up his works because he has a lot of great books on water. He's done fabulous research and is responsible for giving us a lot of good information about what water does. Batman Helge is an MD, and he says that water inhibits histamine production as well as its excess release. And he's the one that found in his research that water by itself had the strong antihistamine properties. Allergies are in epidemic proportions. I used to think in my practice, every single person that came in, now granted they came in because they were sick and they had issues, I wasn't dealing with a healthy population, but that everybody had allergies. But research says that 2 in every 10 now suffer from allergies. And the young are developing nervous system problems, and their nervous systems are particularly vulnerable to any allergic or toxic overloads. Allergies lead to behavioral disorders such as hyperactivity, learning disabilities, etc. At least 1 in 10 child may react adversely to some common foods or additives. Dehydration produces more histamines. Histamines are produced exponentially when the body becomes more and more dehydrated. Your brain's health depends upon 3 main factors, and I want you to memorize these. Write them down. You got to drink water. You got to drink enough water, and you got to drink the right kind of water. So when we say drink water, right now we need to be saying you need to be drinking water that hydrates the body. And what is that water that hydrates the body of the brain? Microclustered ionized alkaline water. Water recommendations, and these are only guidelines because I find that I need sometimes a lot more water than this. The minimum intake for children and adults is 1/2 your weight in ounces. Think about this, folks. How many of our school children even drink 2 glasses of water a day? Very few. And parents say, well, here's your Coke, here's your milk, here's your, your health drink, whatever those are on the market today. Here, you need some energy, take this. And they're making them more dehydrated. The body needs no less than 2 quarts of water and 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt every day to compensate for its natural losses in urine, respiration, and perspiration. Remember that the inside of the cell is water with salt in it. It's not just water. So I noticed, I was on a weight loss diet recently, lost 10 pounds in a week, and water was a big part of it. And it was exciting, and I would take a teaspoon of salt, and I love salt, so it wasn't hard, but it helped me. I mean, it was pushing it out. So it was kind of exciting, and I could see my body was needing more than a gallon a day to flush all the toxins that were moving. To really hydrate the system, you can drink equal to your weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you can drink 150 ounces, not 150 pounds, folks. Sodas. How many of you are hooked on sodas? No, in the past we're hooked on sodas. Yeah. And did you know it? No. Nobody ever taught you that. Like, they taste good. And I need a refreshment, and I just ran, or I just had a stressful day. Oh, give me a drink. Or what do we do for people to be kind of hospitable? We give them drinks, right? And we have a whole assortment of things that are all dehydrating and all acid. If you substitute milk, juice, sodas, tea, coffee, alcohol, you have to drink even more alkaline water. You have to drink 12 ounces of water just to replace, remember, that 10 ounces of coffee. It takes 32 ounces of alkaline water at 9.0 pH to neutralize one 8-ounce soda. Is that amazing? And you can experiment with it and see. Start pouring in and see how many glasses of alkaline water it takes to bring that pH up to alkaline. It takes 32. Dehydration is caused by water not absorbing well. Water has to be microclustered, ionized, and alkaline to have the proper hydration to cells. And again, to the average person, it's like, I don't even know what dehydration is. Well, now you can give them this information and let them see. They're going to all identify. How many of you have identified with some of these symptoms we've talked about tonight? And so the average person is going to get it. They're going to know, oh, I am dehydrated. I do need water, and I have not been educated about water. The average person, even in health, folks, even your practitioners in the natural health, have not been educated about water because we haven't had the right kind of water readily available, but we do now. RO, distilled, purified, bottled acid waters, they're all going to dehydrate and take water out of the body. So what do we drink? We drink only microclustered, ionized, alkaline water made with medical grade. Folks, I cannot emphasize enough how important this is. I cannot tell you the horrible cases that I've seen. I've seen people grow things like tumors on their body within 2 months of having machines that are ionizers that were half the price and were already putting toxic metals into their body, and when they stopped the water, the growth went away and the metals they were getting and the toxins. So it is absolutely critical, and just having solid plates isn't enough. You've got to protect those metals, and only medical grade platinum and titanium are safe for your body so they don't break down. And you don't see that, folks, and most people don't know how to test it. So just drinking the water, you're not going to taste it. Begin drinking as soon as you wake up in the morning, 16 ounces of water. You want to drink all day long, every hour. Drink enough so that you get clear urine. One of the complaints is, I got to run to the bathroom all day long. You know what I found out? That once your body gets rid of a lot of that toxins, you don't have to run so much anymore. So be blessed and thank God that you do have to run, because you're moving toxins when you have to go frequently, and it will pass. And if you live in high altitude, you got to drink more water. And if you eat any convenience food, you have to drink more water because it sucks up the water. And if you exercise, if you walk up a hill, if you walk up the stairs, if you go downstairs and do the laundry, whatever, you're exercising some, you're using up more water. If you have a lot of stress, stress causes more dehydration, and your metabolism is using up that water. Our next subject is about salt. Salt is, you should only use sea salt because salt expands the blood so it can reach all parts of the body, and it helps to stabilize the blood pressure. And I take my clients who have high blood pressure and say, you know, you must have some salt in your diet, and definitely get on the right kind of water. It helps you sleep better, and it helps reduce mucus. Inadequate intake of water causes dehydration, but it's not just the inadequate intake. Drinking enough water is only one of the elements in rehydrating the brain and the body. You have to also have the right kind of water. It has to be microclustered, it has to be ionized, it has to be alkaline, it has to be made from solid medical grade plates, and it may or you may not absorb enough water. I can't tell you how many people have said, and they've even gone into their doctor and said, I'm drinking a gallon a day and I'm still dehydrated. And folks are getting the message out there, and people are starting to hear and listen and say, well, I'm not hydrated. Oh, so I'll just go get any alkalizer, any ionizer. Folks, don't do that. I promise you that as a professional and as someone that can tell the difference, you've got a big difference. And when, you know, it's like you do pay for quality. You know that about your cars, you know that about your houses, you know that about your lives in other ways. Why don't we get it about our water? And hopefully you will get that and be able to help your friends get that. Water that is acid is dehydrating. And I almost feel like I have to go do some kind of penance to my clients who I've told them to drink RO water, to drink distilled water, because I was actually doing them not any good other than giving them water that didn't have all the chemicals in it. I was giving them positively charged acid water. And then we were having to give them products that had to move the pH, and they were having to do more and more raw foods because they couldn't get their pHs to stay alkaline, because they were drinking all the wrong kinds of waters. Water that is acid is dehydrating. One of the greatest things you can do with people is go up to them and say, hey, you drinking that water? How long have you been interested in good water? And people that are drinking bottled water care about their water, right? They already are aware that they need to be drinking water and that it's important for them. Water, folks, is not just water. Would you ever drink this water coming out of your left-hand side here? No. Would you drink it coming out of the right, the falls? Yeah, you wouldn't probably have any problem at all with that. Water is not just water. It has a structure. And the structure is very different in water that comes out of polluted areas or tap water or RO water. Ionized water has an ability to change the structure of the water. And your water has its own brain. Even the purest water can still contain vibrational pollution. Even pure bottled water, even pure RO water has a vibrational pollution of acid. Water's the most programmable substance on the earth. It has a memory. It'll actually contain the energetic signatures of whatever is placed in it. And it stores and transfers this information within the body. This is why we can now replicate that water that is like the hexagonal water coming out of the high mountain areas in the Hunza area and in other areas that are mountain areas known for longevity. We can now duplicate that in your own home and have longevity coming out of your own tap. And bottled RO distilled is not the best. It will not hydrate the body. There's a couple things. We have structure of water. The water is a pentagonal structure. That's large, big clumps. And it's very hard to move them into the cell because the cell has very small, permeable walls. And it's not shown in any way to improve life other than keeping you alive. It accelerates your aging, and it's high in acid waste that build up. The metabolic functions actually decrease. And there's little capacity for that water to store any energy. It has little energy to give. How many of you get energy from drinking tap water or RO water? Do you get energy from drinking microclustered, hexagonal, ionized water? Yes, amen, do you? A lot of energy, because it holds energy. Little penetration of the nutrients into the cells. I can take half of the vitamins and minerals I used to take. How many of you have the same thing now that I drink hydrated microclustered water, because it gets into the cells? Nutrient absorption is more efficient, and there's an inefficient absorption or getting rid of waste with the pentagonal water. Now the hexagonal structure of water is small clumps. It's easy to get into the cell. They improve life significantly. They slow down the aging. There's no acid waste buildup. The metabolic functions increase. I've actually noticed that when I drink this water, I tend to have a low thyroid, but when I drink the water, my thyroid starts working a whole lot better. Huge capacity of this hexagonal water to store energy. And it needs those folks, those very strong, solid medical grade plates to be able to make that kind of water for a lifetime. If you don't have that, you cannot keep producing that year in and year out. It is highly energizing to the cells. It gives rapid penetration into the cells of nutrients. It helps their absorption, and it helps efficiently remove the waste. It contains powerful antioxidants. We call this microclustered hexagonal ionized water. And it has the negative hydrogen ion called the hydroxyl ion. Its water becomes alkaline, which helps our bodies move to the pH side of alkaline. It's super hydrating. You can run a very strong race. I can do a very strong workout where I'm jumping and moving and very much doing cardio, and in the middle of it, drink a whole glass of water, and it doesn't stop me at all. Whereas I could never do that in the past. I had to do it before or after exercise. And the ionized water is 6 times more hydrating than conventional water. Microclustered hexagonal ionic water scavenges free radicals. It breaks down the cells. The free radicals steal the molecules from the healthy tissue. They create unstable or mutated cells.